Hi, my name is Julie Stevens, and I'm a stage 4 aggressive, inoperable, and chemo-resistant colon cancer survivor. How so? Because I worked with Oscar Sierra. You may be debating why you would work with Oscar, and let me give you 3 things that he did for me that dramatically changed the outcomes of my cancer journey. The first thing is Oscar taught me how to read my blood differently. When I was originally diagnosed and they shared that I would be going through surgery, and after surgery they shared that the cancer had spread, they told me that it would be 6 months of chemotherapy followed by a PET scan. And that just didn't sit that well with me. When I think about the scientific method, you do an intervention and then you test to make sure that intervention worked. So I was really searching for some sort of data that I could look at to make sure that while I was on the journey of chemo, I could see that it was consistently helping me to beat the cancer. Unfortunately, what I found is that traditional medicine, or I shouldn't say traditional, but Western medicine doesn't look for small data and leading indicator data. They only look at lagging indicator data. Oscar instead taught me how to look at my blood to find those leading indicator data points. Things like CA19-9, CEA, and circulating tumor DNA were very good diagnostics for me to use to understand how much cancer was in my bloodstream. So he really allowed me to measure those leading indicator data that indicated that the chemotherapy wasn't working. So after the very first chemo session, we were able to identify there was concern. After the second chemo session, I was able to confirm it does not work and immediately pivot to immunotherapy, which did work well for me. Why is that so important? Because if I would have waited 6 months, gone through 6 months worth of chemotherapy, and then I would find out that I had cancer all over my body, and my battle would have been much, much more difficult. So studying those leading indicator data points allowed me to fail fast and pivot to find the solution that actually worked to eradicate the cancer. The second thing Oscar did for me is he prepared my body to withstand the challenges that Western medicine creates. Things like chemotherapy and immunotherapy, there's a long litany of challenges that come as a result of taking that medicine. As an example, things like hand and foot cracking, I was able to identify a lotion that would work and gloves that would work so that I could sleep better and wouldn't have that issue. But most of the other challenges you have around nausea and tiredness, exhaustion, Oscar was able to prepare my body by providing me the right nutrients and supplements so that, for example, I had high magnesium or high vitamin D or vitamin K, which allowed me to withstand some of those challenges that you traditionally see with natural chemotherapy. So I can't recommend enough making sure your body is prepared and able to receive the medicine that they provide you, as well as possible to reach that maximum effectiveness. The third thing Oscar did for me that really helped me is he suggested some things around my exercise, diet, lifestyle, and environment that really helped ensure my body was able to fight the cancer as much as I could naturally. As an example, I'm HER2 positive. So one of the recommendations Oscar made is eat olives every day. And olives are a natural HER2 inhibitor. So not only will he recommend the supplements and the additional foods you need in order to bolster your system to withstand the treatment you're about to get, but it'll help you figure out how you can naturally provide your body the nutrients to fight cancer on its own as well. And those 3 things of identifying how I can track biodata, how I can increase my levels of efficiency so that my body can withstand the treatment, as well as how I can make sure that it fights cancer naturally, allowed me to find success on this journey. He really helped me on a week-to-week basis make sure that I was doing all of the right things, making sure I was being personally accountable for getting the very best outcomes possible, and providing me the guidance and the coaching I needed to be successful. I never would have been successful without Oscar Sierra, and every single dollar I spent here, I will have a long and healthy life as a result, so I couldn't have spent my dollars in a more helpful way. When I originally was asked to come see Oscar, I honestly had a little trepidation. I kind of thought it was just hippie stuff. I thought he was going to tell me that I should, reduce the frequencies in my house and do this and do that. And while he did tell me to do some of those things that I thought he would do, the science he had behind him was actually much well thought out and much more scientific than what I saw from actually most of my Western MD doctors. So there is a certain amount of things that I would have considered or thought was hippie that I went into this, but the reality is the science foundation and backing you see in every single conversation you have with Oscar. It may not just be looking at the same diagnostics other doctors look at. For example, my oncologist measures my blood every 3 weeks when I went for an infusion. He looked at things like how well is my thyroid working, and how well does how are my white blood cells. What Oscar looked at are things that are much more detailed, and looked at the inner correlations between different data points to allow us to identify any real risk. So having that deeper insight into my blood test, having someone look at multiple data points to compare them against each other, look at trends over time, that analysis just doesn't happen based on how the traditional oncologist or their doctor or their office really has the amount of time to spend with you. When you think about the amount of time an oncologist spends with you, it's 10 to 12 minutes in any given doctor's appointment. Oscar's hour-long appointment where we could dive deep and look at all these different diagnostics gave me the comfort that we weren't missing any data points, and I was collecting everything I needed to really have a full data picture.